How old were you, and when did you launch your fashion line?
I was 21. It was
Wow.
2001. And I
Wow.
had a very small 5-piece collection. My first fashion show, which in the book I talk about, was like the audience was filled with really important people like my parents. Um, that was 2001. And the show was September 9th, 2001. So there you go.
That wow. So I'm sorry, the date was September. You said
9th.
September 9th of 2001. So
Yes.
just 2 days before 9/11.
Yep.
Wow. Can you talk about what was the thing that sort of made you, like, put you on the map and gave you that first success you had?
Yeah, I think when people hear about first success, they imagine like the riches that come with success. That was definitely not the case. I had momentum and I had inbound interest. So that first bag was written about in um, a, an article. People used to get emails once a day, big shocker, called Daily Candy. And
Oh, I love the Daily Candy. I remember it. Danny, right? She
yeah,
sold that company. Talk about powerhouse entrepreneur. She sold
yes,
her company to one of the big media.
AOL, AOL, like for
AOL.
like $140 million, something like that.
Unbelievable. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. All right. So sorry, you were in Daily Candy.
And, prior to Daily Candy, I had, some semblance of like, yes, I had a small, respectable business, but it was really touch and go in terms of, could I make a living on this? Could this sustain me as a career? And when Daily Handy hit, it was like this lightning, that you always hope for. And from that, doors opened, and from there, you could see that my bag resonated with women in a way that women buy things to mark milestones, or investment pieces to mark milestones. And so we became a brand that was really there for a women's milestone moment. This one being the morning after bag. So take it or leave it if you want that to be your milestone. But it was the Sex and the City era. You had I had these fantasies as a 25-year-old of like how my nights would go. And so this was the bag for that moment.
I love that. And I have to tell you, I was thinking back to when I bought one of my first bags, Rebecca Minkoff bags, and it was after I had, signed some particularly important deal. So
Yeah.
it was like a little celebration. I was like, oh my God, this happened. I'm going to treat myself to a bag. And so that was actually my first experience with your brand. So thank you for that. Thank you for helping me mark the milestone. Can you talk about what you were like as a child? Did you know that you wanted to be a fashion designer?
I had an inkling. I'll never forget when I was around 7 or 8, my uncle was like, I really like the way you put things together. You should be a fashion designer. And at the time I was like, I don't want to be a fashion designer. I don't know that any 8-year-old knows what they want to do then. But when I did go down that path, I was like, was that some, unconscious manifestation of what my uncle thought I should be? I think for the most part of my life, I really wanted to be a dancer. I had some challenges there, and that I started dancing too late. My body wasn't exactly formed, to be the prima ballerina. Size double D chest doesn't exactly make things easy as a dancer. And so I took solace in the costume department of my high school and loved the idea that I could create things. And, from there kind of got the bug that I was like, maybe I could do this as my career.
And you found your first mentor there, right? With somebody who kind of really took you under their wing.
Yeah, I think for the first time, this teacher was like, oh my gosh, someone cares about costume design and clothing design. They're not just like, ugh, I didn't mean to pick this one on the list. And because we had no electives, all of our elective time was our chosen art. I would spend, 3 hours a day in there sometimes 5 when I got to be a senior, just designing and creating and working on these projects. And so she invested a lot of time into teaching me, construction, drapery, pattern design. That was really helpful in the beginning because I was making everything when I first started out. I was the one making it, shipping it, delivering it to everybody's door. And then the shirt, which sort of got my name out there. I had been in the Caribbean for a vacation I couldn't afford, and I liked all the tourist t-shirts. but I didn't want anything that said like Aruba or whatever. I was like, I want New York. So I came home and I cut up a shirt. It was when DIY was a thing. And I was wearing it and enough people wanted it. My sister-in-law got one. She had dinner with a famous actress who wanted it. And I sent her the shirt on September, like pre 9/11. I sent her the shirt and she wore it on Jay Leno and said my name on national TV. And like, that was the power of that. It does not exist today. Maybe it does if Meghan Markle wears you. The power of that overnight, you're inundated with where can I buy it? You know, I had one emerging website that carried it. And that's all I did for 9 months was make that shirt.
Today. So let's kind of fast forward. So you started with handbags, right? And then you moved, you've been expanding the offerings and the products under your name. Can you talk about what you now offer?
Yes. So it was, again, the small clothing offering, then the bag hit like lightning. We said, let's shut everything else down. Let's go with this momentum. Then about 3 years in, some designers were starting to get pigeonholed by the industry of she's just a handbag designer. She can't do anything else, which could have a negative effect on consumer perception. And we knew we wanted to be a lifestyle brand. So we very quickly and uncomfortably relaunched clothing, then shoes, then jewelry, then watches, eyewear, scarves, belts. We've got some other things in the work for next year. But yeah, we basically can almost dress an entire woman.
Can you talk a little bit about how COVID affected your business and then how you had to evolve?
Yeah. So March 16th, we went fully remote. On the 22nd, the orders started being canceled from every single one of our retailers. And as a primarily wholesale driven brand, that was our lifeblood. That's where we got income from. Yes, we had a respectable e-commerce business, but it was always kind of like, oh, we'll get to that last. And suddenly that's all we had. And it was the scariest moment of my career as well as my brother's, where we were like, we can either give up now. That's the easy thing to do, is to just say, we quit. We tried. This is going to be really hard. And we said, not only do we owe it to our staff and the people we employ, we owe it to ourselves that we've been doing this for 15 years. If we just give up because it's going to suck, then what did we work so hard for? And it's been the hardest work of our lives to build and sustain a handbag brand when she didn't really need bags, but we created and fostered a relationship that she was like, I'm buying this for later when I go out. And I think that we figured out as a company how to water and grow a beautiful garden in our backyard and that we can live off of. And now as things are expanding and we're reemerging into our partnerships with all of these incredible stores, that is great. That's the gravy now. It's not the main meal. And so I think that that's changed not only how we do business, but our approach to doing business. And again, made it so that we always know we can feed ourselves.
Yeah, I love that. And I've heard you talk about the shift to e-commerce and really having to very quickly shift from the way you were distributing before and you were getting people to buy before to really making an e-commerce play. And you said you've likened it to recognizing that it was like day trading. Can you talk a little bit about what that means?
Yeah. So I think that as a company, we had to hit, we sort of said, what is our bare minimum of sales we need to do every day to pay for the bills and pay our staff's paychecks? And we've got to hit that number and whatever it takes. And if we don't hit that number, what are we going to do the next day to hit it and exceed it? And so every morning with our 10 a.m. call, it is about the strategy and the game plan for that day. And obviously we have 3-month goals and 6-month and years and whatever, but we were so focused on optimizing each day and how do we change our behavior for the next, that we did that, for an entire year. We still have those daily calls. And it truly is about, did we get to eat what we grew today? One thing that we didn't anticipate was all of a sudden our jewelry category, which is our smallest category in terms of sales, we just started selling out of everything. And it took us a minute and we're like, oh, Zoom, she's doesn't need to change her shoes. She wants to change her jewelry. And so we really began to talk about this a lot as a brand. Then we started seeing a spike in our casual wear, our Janine sweatshirt, which now we make in every color of the rainbow. She wants to look cool, collected, and put together, but have a little something going on. And then we started to see spikes of nylon bags, lighter weight. She's probably just going to the grocery store or the farmer's market and just needs a bigger tote. So we just started investing in these categories as we saw this happening, in order to meet her, and then say, okay, she needs a whole sweatsuit now. Let's make the pants, and really get into this mindset of the woman's at home, but she still wants to look good. And so how do we give her that?
I would love if you could talk a little bit about how you're able to find the ability and like internally to overcome obstacles, because this is one obstacle, right? But as an entrepreneur, you experience obstacles all the time. In fact, multiple times a day, right? That's just the nature of the beast. Can you talk a little bit about what the mindset is that you think you are able to bring to it to allow you to overcome some of these things as they're thrown in your way?
I think it's a combination of stubbornness and dog-headed, I don't even know if that's a word, persistence. I think it's about, in one of my chapters, I said, success is being able to keep going. And what I mean by that is you just get up and you put one foot in front of the other and you don't give up. And that can be the one distilling factor or differentiating factor of if you make it or not, because you're all going to be confronted with challenges and obstacles. There is no one who's achieved anything that hasn't had that happen, but they just kept going and they just kept finding a way around it and another way to sort of approach the problem. And you just have to keep getting up as hard as it is, or say like, it's not worth it. I'm not going to do it, but then don't regret that decision,
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the book, because you have this business that you've been running and you are, quickly needing to shift gears for COVID. You've had like a really successful, you guys have had some really good success since COVID because of the strategy shifts and the things that you've done. You also decide though that you're going to write a book, right? You don't have enough going on. You're also a mom, right? With 3 kids?
Yeah.
So mom, 3 kids, running a business, and you decide you're going to write this book, Fearless. What made you decide to write this book and why now?
Okay. Well, to be fair, I did the deal in 2019 and I started writing it in January. I never would have said in the middle of a pandemic, I know what I want to do. I want to write a book, but deal was in process. It was in play, and the manuscript was due October of 2020. So not to say I didn't have a choice, but I said, you know what? I'm not spending, how many hours a day am I saving on a commute that I don't have to make? We are having a lot more efficient meetings now because we're not so distracted with all the other points of business that we had. So I did have time to write the book during the pandemic. But I think the silver lining of the pandemic is as I'm sitting there watching my entire business or 70% of it evaporate and having to rebuild, I was writing about what it was like to build. And so as I'm sort of going through these rules of what got me to where I had been, I had to apply them in real time to where I needed to go. And so I think that not that COVID was perfect timing, because it obviously wasn't for myself or anyone, but the timing of that to write this book, I think gave it its strongest shot at being effective, if that makes sense.
If someone were to pick up a copy of the book, what would they take? What are the takeaways? What would they get from the book? And is it for women? Is it like, talk a little bit about who it's for and what people would potentially get as takeaways?
So it's for anyone. I don't know if Bob the Builder in Utah is going to pick up a Rebecca Minkoff book. He'll be like, who's this woman? But Bob the Builder in Utah, this is for you too. I think that my goal with this book is it's light enough and written in a way that it's like you're overhearing a girlfriend's conversation, that you can take it to the beach as your summer read. But it's deep enough that if you are building something and you have a career, or you want to be an entrepreneur, or you want to start something, or stay successful in corporate America, you can use these rules to succeed. You can go back to the book and say, I'm scared. That fear is stopping me. I don't know if I can do it. And then you go, oh, here's a couple of things I can apply to my life, and I'm still going to be scared, but I'm going to do it anyways. And so hopefully it changes your frame of mind, and it's not a self-help book, but it changes the way you think about things so that you recognize that fear is an emotion. It's hardwired into us. It keeps us safe from bear attacks and sharks. But that same emotion doesn't need to be the thing that stops us from what we're trying to achieve.
A lot of what you're talking about requires an understanding of what's going on with you. So do you have a daily practice for self-awareness or tips for people about how to build some self-awareness?
I think it's first noticing that there's a voice, right? It's first you notice the voice that's saying you suck, you're not good enough, you'll never do this, or the voice or the part of you that's seeking approval. Will she approve it? Will she make it worthy? Does she think it's a good idea? I think anyone can stop and recognize when that's happening. And then when you recognize that, you go, good, this isn't going to get me anywhere. This isn't going to be helpful. What am I good at? Let's focus and reinforce the positive. It's sort of like going to the gym. If you want a bicep, you got to go every day. If you want to hope that you'll get one, if you go once a month, you're smoking something. And so I think the more you do that, you go, recognize. And then it's like, okay, good. I'm about to do something big and I'm scared. And here comes that voice. And then you're like, not listening to you today, do it anyways. And then it gets easier. So to say that I have no fear now, I'd be lying to you. But when I take my biggest risks, I don't have the fear anymore because I know that if I fail, I'll have learned something. Yeah. I'm not going to sit there and be like, oh, catastrophic. Let me self-flagellate and I'm terrible. It's like, what did I learn? Good. Another skill I have. And so I think that the more you do it, the better you'll get. Doesn't happen overnight. Doesn't happen in a year. But now my most exciting initiatives are the riskiest.
Is that something that you learned to build over time? Or have you always been fearless in terms of what you would take on?
No, I've not always been that way. I've always done things that I was scared to do, but I definitely listened to that voice a lot more than I needed. It took an outside friend, consultant sort of pointing out every single time we tried to follow the path, do what the fashion industry said was right to do or not. And when we did that, nothing happened. No one cared. No one noticed. And when we went our own way and did our own initiatives and our technology and all the crazy stuff we do, that's when we saw success. Yeah. And he pointed out enough examples. And this was on the eve of our big show that kind of transformed the fashion industry with how, seeing it in real time, buying it in real time, using influencers as models. And once he said that, it just clicked for me. And I was like, he's totally right. That parachute's coming off. I'm just going to jump. And I don't care what happens because anytime I tried to do what everyone else did, I didn't get anywhere.
You have also, so in addition to the book, you launched the Female Founder Collective. Can you talk about what that is and what inspired you to launch that?
I was incredibly lonely as a founder. And I was upset that there was this echo chamber of women all talking about the same thing, the glass ceiling and the wage gap, and nothing was changing. And I would be at the most incredible conferences with the most talented women, all successful, all complaining about this. And I was like, something has to change. And the only way I know how to change it is to have a community of founders helping each other through their tips, tricks, trials, through education. And how do we do something that's recognizable, like a seal that you're supporting a woman? So is it a pain in the butt to walk an extra block to go buy from the women-owned coffee shop when Starbucks is there? Yes. But you make a huge difference in that woman's outcome when you do that. My co-founder, Allison Wyatt, joined me a couple months after launch and really was like, there's an education to be had. Founders should be teaching founders their hard-won knowledge. Yes. And so we've created this 10,000 strong community, and we have a smaller, more private membership that's open to anyone, women, that is really all about increasing the education, increasing the access to each other and learning so that you are getting, there's no shortcuts, but you are getting a lot more insights on how you can apply it to your life and give you some acceleration.
If you weren't feeling lonely as a founder, as maybe a female founder before, COVID certainly helped, bring those feelings along because you had a lot more time to kind of think about, oh my God, and so much was changing, right? So, your collective was such a useful thing to get access to at that time for a woman like me, a founder like me, because I realized, oh my gosh, I'm dealing with something that everyone else is dealing with too. And just that feeling not lonely in oh, I know I'm not alone in dealing with these things. So I'm curious. So as a female founder, I have found value. So thank you so much for creating this collective, the Female Founder Collective. I'm curious for you personally, what has it done for you? What has it added to your life?
I think that we can get so self-absorbed into our own life and our own problems and just the narrowness of that. Mm-hmm. And I think the joy and the sense of community and the sense of growth, when you open up outside of your immediate, intimate life to hear about other perspectives, other women's struggles, other women's successes, other points of view, not only is it rewarding personally and do I learn from it, but there's something that's intangible in paying it forward. Mm-hmm. And, could I make a life all about just the perfect handbag? I can. It feels a little too materialistic to only worry about that. Mm-hmm. I think if I know that I'm helping create a space that allows others to succeed, to me, that's far more valuable.
What empowers you? What kind of gets you going? What do you think is that thing that really keeps you motivated and on track?
I think what keeps me excited is new categories. When we launched perfume, I didn't know what to do, but I got to learn something new. Like, I think when you have your own company, sometimes it's very, and you've had it for 15 years, there's a lot of things that you're doing, but you don't get to learn new things. So to learn an entire new industry was really fascinating. And to do something where I said, if you guys want to partner with me, I'm not interested in creating a product that's going to harm a woman or harm the environment. And this is something that's going on her body. So we're going to innovate what we put on her. Mm-hmm. And so that's just been fun. Or we have 2 new categories launching. I'm learning again. They're entirely different ways. Or launching a book. Who knew that I was going to have to make sure that all my books were sold? I didn't know that when I wrote the book. And then I found out. I was like, oh, I have to sell these? Okay. Right. Be right back. I'll spend the next 6 months selling my book. So I think that I've had to learn an entirely new skill set that I definitely never had experience in. But that keeps it exciting and it keeps it fresh.
What is your biggest accomplishment, or the one that you're most proud of?
Outside of my kitties?
You can say that too. We love that too.
Well, I'm definitely, I was really uncertain that I wanted to be a mom. Mm-hmm. And my mother kept telling me at 30 years old, your ovaries are going to turn to dust. You're going to be infertile soon. And I also have a great relationship with my parents. And I was like, damn, I want my future children to know these humans and have a long time with them. Mm-hmm. So even when I was pregnant, I was like, what did we do? I regret this. I would send my husband text messages so the baby didn't hear anything. Like, I can't believe we're doing this. And he was like, it's a little too late for you to be regretting this. Mm-hmm. And then when my son was born, it was like the most transformative experience. And to love something so much, you choose your partner and you have to do a lot of work to create that love and keep it going. But with a child, it's just there. So most proud of them. On the work side, I think, many years ago, back in 2016, we decided to, again, change the Fashion Week model, show you stuff that you could buy in real time. We decided to put influencers in our shows as models. That was not done. It was still looked at as like degrading to a brand. And we closed down Green Street, where our store is, and invited anyone to come. 5,000 people showed up.
Wow.
We had this, the whole street, we had a band. About a week or 2 prior to that event is when some of the terrorist attacks in Europe happened. Mm-hmm. And I kept saying to myself, like, this feels really materialistic to have a show, like when our world feels to be stretched so thin. Mm-hmm. And so in very quick order, we partnered with a female graffiti artist. She took 22 leather jackets and emblazoned words with peace and love and unity. And that's what closed the show. And we auctioned those off to work with a nonprofit human rights organization who got the proceeds. And I can't distill it fine enough. But the emotion that came out of that, of standing for something, of knowing we were giving back, of seeing that at the end of the show, there was like this weird collective like roar. And it was like this moment that you'll never forget, of just the emotion of humans connecting, not just for a show, but of standing for something more.
Who would you say inspires you?
I think my customers inspires me. You know, pre-pandemic, I would get to meet her in real life a lot. I think that other founders inspire me so much more than I ever imagined. You know, it used to be that other designers would inspire me, but now they're women who are doing awesome things. Like, I love hearing those stories. What would you say your personal superpower is? That is a great question. I think that I don't take myself or life too seriously. And I think it's sometimes good to have that perspective, because it can feel really serious sometimes, and you can get stuck on that, and it feels very solid. And if you can kind of rise above that and not view it from that lens, sometimes the problem can be easier to unpack.
I always love asking women like you, successful women who've achieved so much, because you know how much hard work and how much you learn along the way. What do you wish that you could tell the Rebecca who was just starting out?
I would tell her to don't be scared of all the risks you're going to take. We took the risks anyways, but there was always fear connected with that, and an uncertainty, and a not standing from a point of strength. And I would just say, take those risks, take even more, because that's why we're here.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and you don't want to get to the end and think, well, why didn't I do that? Okay, we have a couple of very quick rapid fire questions for you, if that's okay, in the last couple minutes. What is your mood boosting song?
Oh my gosh. I gotta look. It's Pink. And the name of it, hold on, bear with me, to my Spotify playlist.
Go for it.
She's on my when I really want to get running fast. And
are you a runner?
Oh, I'm a runner. I only became a runner in COVID. It's called I Am Here.
Okay.
I think yeah.
And so you became a runner during COVID. So you were not doing that before?
So prior to that, I really was like, wow, I work out 2 whole days a week for 30 minutes. I'm so active. And then COVID hit, and I was like, I need to run away from these children, and I'm not allowed to go anywhere. So I got to run to get out of the house. And so I started running, and I've just enjoyed it. And yeah.
I love that. I have some friends who say that they just like running is their sanity. Yeah. I can't get myself there, but everyone's got something else, right?
Lately, let me tell you what's been helping. I had to take a hiatus from The Walking Dead, because the last time I watched it, I was pregnant, and it would spike my blood sugar too high. And so I'm a couple seasons behind, but let me tell you, when you're running and watching that at the same time, the minutes will go by, and you're happy that you're alive and not eaten by zombies at the end of it. So that's my pro tip.
I love that. So run away from the zombies as you're working out.
Yeah.
Okay. What product can't you live without? And it could be one of yours. That's fine.
Oh, I mean, we have a really great bag called the Edie, and we make her really exaggerated and over the top, and then we make her, more classic. So definitely invest in that.
Yeah. All right. One last one, just because it's fun. Do you have a hidden talent?
I'm not going to share it with you here, like do it, but I'm good at some accents, and I do it with my kids a lot of the time.
All right. Awesome. So you can do some good accents. All right. If people want to find you and follow you, what is the best way for them to do that?
At Rebecca Minkoff on Instagram, or if you like reading entrepreneurial, more business-minded stuff, you can follow me on LinkedIn. I write an article every other week and a newsletter once a month.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Rebecca. We will have in the show notes how people can find the book and all of your socials and your website links. So we appreciate you doing this. We are so inspired by what you're doing, and I do not know how you do it all because you've got a lot going on. But
I
thank
have a
you so
great
much.
team, but yes.
Yes. Well, of
Good team.
course. And that's part of the brilliance, right? Is making sure that you have a great team around you. But
Totally.
thank you so much for spending the time to do this today. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.